Hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Derek, author and webmaster of Gematrinator.com. Once again, bringing you some news by the numbers here on February 8th, 2019. In this video, I'm going to talk about the story about Kellyanne Conway talking about getting assaulted at a Mexican restaurant in Maryland back in October during the Brett Kavanaugh hearing. Now, if you follow any of my work, you understand I spend a lot of time talking about the Metonic cycle and how this important cycle about the moon appears to be the basis of numerology for many, many of our mainstream news stories, especially in stories involving women. And this is because women have something called the menstrual cycle, like menstrual month having the same base words. And this Metonic cycle is 19 years in length. And in Jewish Gematria, the word female equals 67, the 19th prime number. Now, this Metonic cycle is a period of 19 years that syncs up with almost exactly 235 lunar phases. And like I always say, if you understand the Metonic cycle, you'll be much, much better at decoding mainstream news stories. And this is exactly what we're getting here in the story about Kellyanne Conway, so we'll discuss this as we go. To begin with, if you happen to be new, this is a chart of the base 4 ciphers. The alphabetic order numbers the alphabet 1 through 26, A through Z. The reduction methods, also called Pythagorean, reduce each double-digit number to a single digit. Both methods can then be reversed for complementary ciphers called reverse ordinal and reverse reduction. So first, let's begin with the name Kellyanne Conway. Notice how this sums to 225 in the reverse alphabetic order. The Metonic cycle is named after an astronomer named Meton of Athens. And the name Meton in Jewish Gematria equals 225. This Jewish Gematria cipher, based on the original Latin alphabetic order, this cipher produces much larger numbers, and as you can see, there's much fewer coincidences when this happens, but these are how the ancient Hebrew Gematria, Greek isopsephy charts were structured. So 225, like Meton. Again, Kellyanne Conway equals 225. And here she is in the news on the date February 8th. When you write out the date February 8th, it also sums to 225 and 72, just like her name. Now in standard reduction, February 8th equals 81. And this is interesting because the name Conway equals 81 with the alphabetic order and with the reverse alphabetic order. So we're talking about February 8th, today's date. This is written 2/8 here in the United States. The alleged assault took place in the town of Bethesda. See how Bethesda equals 28 in reduction? Well, isn't it interesting that Bethesda, Maryland, also equaling 280 in the reverse alphabetic order? So a double connection to 28. There's a cipher called Frank Baconus on my site. This is the same as the alphabetic order, but it takes capital letters and mixes them up. So capital A, capital B, small b, and so on. Well, notice how in this method, Uncle Julio's equals 280, just like Bethesda, Maryland, where the story takes place. Uncle Julio's was established first in Dallas, Texas. Dallas, Texas equals 28. This article mentions how Kellyanne Conway also dialed 911 after the incident. And look at the Gematria of February 8th in Jewish. 911. How funny is that? Remember 9/11? A number associated with the divine feminine, connected to the moon. The name Kellyanne Elizabeth Conway equals 119 in the reverse reduction method, which is the inverse, of course, of 911. Next, we're going to talk about the number 33, which appears to be pretty significant to this story as well. To begin with, they tell us the story took place in October, which is the only month that has 33 Gematria. The establishment it occurred at was Uncle Julio's, which sums to 156 reverse and 141 ordinal. This is the same as the number 33, 141, and 156. And if you look up Uncle Julio's, notice how they began in November of 1986. Well, 1986 to 2019 is 33 years. Also, the word restaurant equals 137, which is the 33rd prime number. I think that might have something to do with why this restaurant's in the news here. But another detail that stuck out is that the woman who assaulted Miss Conway was 63 years old. In reduction, the name Kellyanne Conway equals 63. It's interesting that Kellyanne Conway was born on January 20th, because that was Inauguration Day for Donald Trump, who she works for. And on Inauguration Day, she turned 50 years old. That was the day that Donald, which sums to 50, became the president of America, which equals 50, and all of its 50 states. But now we're going to talk about how the numbers of the Metonic cycle are coded into this ritual. First off, notice how Kellyanne Conway was born in the year 67. As I mentioned earlier, 67 is the 19th prime number. Just last month, Kellyanne Conway turned 19,000 days old. As of today, she's 19 days after her most recent birthday. Next, I want to show you a cipher called Satanic Gematria. Of course, the number of the beast in the book of Revelation revealed to be 666. This is a triangular number, meaning if you add every number 1 through 36, you get 666. Notice how this cipher begins with A as number 36. This continues through 61. 61 is the 18th prime number, and 18 is 6 plus 6 plus 6. And in this cipher, Satanic Gematria equals 666. So this is one of the most relevant forms of Gematria that I know that exists. The name of the woman who assaulted her was Mary Elizabeth Inabenet. Notice how in Satanic Gematria this sums to 1009, like the number 19. Remember, 19 years in the Metonic cycle. Also notice how she has the 130 in reverse reduction. Remember, there's 13 lunar phases every 7 years, or 7 years of each Metonic cycle. 13 equals 99, just like the moon equals 99. But what I also noticed is that this woman who assaulted her, her middle name was Elizabeth. And the reason that stands out is because Kellyanne Conway's full name is Kellyanne Elizabeth Conway. The name Elizabeth equals 88. And this encounter between Kellyanne Elizabeth Conway and Mary Elizabeth Inabenet occurred in the state of Maryland, which equals 88. So just to show you how important the Metonic cycle is, it's coded into our English language. Check out the phrase Metonic cycle. Notice how it sums to 197 in the reverse alphabetic order. Well, in the Metonic cycle, every 19 years, 7 of them have 13 lunar phases. The rest of them only have 12. That's how we get 235 synodic months. The Metonic cycle is a period of 19 years. 19 years equals 197 in this same method. Now, when you take the number 19 and add it to the 19th prime number, which is 67, you get a result of 86. In Gematria, the word 19 equals 86. Think about how the 2019 Super Bowl was just played. The man who performed the halftime show was Adam Levine. Adam equals 19. Levine equals 67. Adam Levine equals 86. And again, the 19th prime number, 67. So it all ties in. The restaurant Julio's is where this incident occurred. Julio's equals 86. And this happened during the Kavanaugh hearing. Kavanaugh equals 86 as well. And remember, 19 years in the Metonic cycle. Another cipher you may have noticed next to Jewish Gematria is English Extended. This is essentially the same cipher but uses the present alphabetic order. Using this method, Metonic cycle has a value of 1108. And remember that Satanic Gematria cipher that I just showed you? In this method, Kellyanne Elizabeth Conway equals 1108, just like Metonic cycle. Back to our base 4 methods. Check out how the phrase the moon sums to 36 and 27 in reduction. And then we have a 99 in reverse. The name Kellyanne equals 36 and 99. And then her last name sums to 27 in both reduction methods, just like the moon equals 27 in reverse. In this post, I linked to a slide about the mathematics of the moon and Saturn and how remarkably connected they are. This is ancient mystical knowledge that this is no coincidence, I believe. This has something to do with the reality that we live in. And what I found interesting is that in these 2 big number ciphers, we have a story about a woman being assaulted. And assaulted has the same gematria as Saturn, 511, 741. And this woman was assaulted by a woman named Mary, which sums to 511 in Jewish Gematria as well. But what also sticks out about the name Mary is how it sums to 57, 21, and 51. Well, the word moon sums to 57, 21, and 51, and that's those same 3 methods. The moon has a range of 57 degrees in the sky. We're going to pull up Kellyanne Conway's Wikipedia page. And once again, we'll take a look at her birthday, January 20th, 1967, and measure to the date that she took office. Her role was counselor to the president. Notice how she was exactly 2,609 weeks old. Well, in numerology, without the zeros here, we have the number 269. And 269 is the 57th prime number. Again, moon equaling 57. The name of her attacker, Mary, 57. Now, I don't want to stray too far off course here, guys. But after years of observation, I definitely think there's something to what we call the rule of Colel, which is the one-off theory, which is that if there's a number that seems pretty obvious, like it would be a match, but it's only one-off, that there can be significance to it. And I don't talk about this ever because I have enough numbers to measure, right? We got 4 base ciphers, we got date measurements. There's enough here to look at. But how interesting is it that Kellyanne Elizabeth Conway, her full name equals 268, which is just 1 off the 57th prime number, right? Well, what I also discuss in my work, and I haven't talked about this much lately because it's kind of complicated, but this ordinal gematria of a person's full name can be converted to a date, and then when you measure from that date to news stories, you find significant alignments. And maybe this seems like a stretch, but hear me out. Notice how if you measure from the date of this story to August 26th, 26/8, you get 28 weeks and 3 days. The moon equals 283. And in the moon's Metonic cycle, there's 235 synodic months. And if you measure to the previous August 26th, you get 23 weeks and 5 days. But that's something I'd probably won't talk about too much in my work. One more look at how old Kellyanne Conway was on this date. She was exactly 19,012 days old. Now remember how Metonic cycle equals 197, just like 19 years? And this is because 7 of the 19 years have 13 lunar phases. Well, the other 12 have 12 lunar phases. So it's interesting, you get 19,012 days, since both of those numbers are significant to the Metonic cycle. If you multiply 12 times 12, you get 144. Kellyanne equals 144 in reverse. And today's news story falls exactly 144 days before the next total solar eclipse. In regards to Metonic cycle, summing to 197, 197 is a prime number. That would be the 45th prime number. Think about how the moon has 13 lunar phases every several years. 13 equals 45 in both reduction methods. The name Kellyanne equals 45 in reverse. So we saw how this news story is 144 days before the eclipse, like the gematria of Kellyanne. If you instead look back at the last total solar eclipse, we find that this news came out 18 days into the 18th month after the eclipse. The name Kellyanne Conway equals 180, a lot like the number 18. Furthermore, this is also 171 days after the anniversary of the eclipse, and 171 is the 18th triangular number. So what a perfect date for her to be in the news. Now, why is she in the news in Maryland? Well, we talked about how she shares the middle name with her attacker, Elizabeth 88, like the gematria of Maryland 88, but there's actually more to this. We mentioned how Kellyanne Conway equals 180, like 18. Her attacker was named Mary Innibinet, which sums to 61, the 18th prime number. In ordinal, Mary Innibinet equals 151. That's the 36th prime number. 36, the reduction gematria of Kellyanne. This also ties into the governor of Larry Hogan. If you look from the date of the incident to Larry Hogan's next birthday, which is May 25th, we find this story was 15 weeks and 1 day before his birthday, 151 connecting these two women. This is also 106 days. And check out this guy's name. 106, reverse reduction. Also check out how Lawrence Joseph Hogan Jr. equals 227 in the alphabetic order. This is the number for ritual and symbolism, 227. Ancient accepted Scottish rite of Freemasonry, equaling 227 in the reverse method. It's no doubt Masonry involved in these rituals. Placing governors with perfect numbers in office. Check out Larry Hogan. By the way, his name also equals 151, just like Mary Innibinet. It's 15 weeks, 1 day before his birthday. This connects everything right here. In reduction, his name sums to 56. He was born in the year 56. Of course, he's got the 119 Gematria as well. Kellyanne Elizabeth Conway with that 119 Gematria. This guy's full name also has something else interesting about it. It sums to 34 in the reverse method, or 340. The state of Maryland equals 34, and he's the governor of Maryland. So there you have it, guys. Once again, the numbers of the Metonic cycle appearing in the mainstream media. And what's so spooky about this is that the numbers of the Metonic cycle recently appeared extremely prevalent in my own life, my own personal life, with someone I met completely by the numbers. So, even though every part of me says that these news stories are completely fake and crafted and concocted by this code because, hey, you know, we're not the first people to discover the language of Gematria and how integral it is to our reality, but you know, there's a small part of me that wonders if this is real, but I wouldn't buy it for a buck. I did say that I was going to chime in on the chat. I noticed the chat window that I'm in is not operating. I think that's because I have not changed windows since my last live stream. So I probably missed all the chat and won't be able to go through it unless it appears now, which it does. So Rebecca says the lunar cycle is man-made. The moon is definitely not a natural satellite of this planet. There's just no way. I urge you, though, to study the mathematics of Saturn in relation to the moon. It's so creepy how it all ties together. And just to look at this again, it takes the moon 29.5 days to complete a lunar phase. So we get a full moon every 29.5 days. Well, it just so happens that Saturn takes 29.5 years to circle the sun. And they're not exact. You know, they're a little bit off, these numbers. However, these numbers are off by almost exactly 1/400th of each other. And the moon is said to be 1/400th the distance to the sun. Therefore, it's also 1/400th the size of the sun, which is why we get both total and annular solar eclipses. So, and then as far as the synagogue of Satan, you know, again, we're not always talking about conspiracy theory. We're talking about numerical evidence for conspiracy theory, and perhaps the moon being created by man is one of the biggest conspiracy theories. But I want to point out that the synagogue of Satan, as it's stated in the book of Revelation, the false Jews ruling in end times, which many could make a case is what's going on right now here in the year 2019. The synagogue of Satan, which is first mentioned in Revelation 2:9, the 29th chapter of the book. So the synagogue of Satan equals 290. The Bible full of Gematria, of course. But in the alphabetic order, the synagogue of Satan equals 223. Now, there's this Metonic cycle that is important with the moon, but there's also the sorrow cycle. The sorrow cycle is a period of 223 synodic months instead of 235. This cycle allows us to predict the next total or any solar and lunar eclipse. In Hebrew Gematria, the phrase for the moon sums to 223, and we get an eclipse every 223 synodic months. So definitely the moon is a creation. It's not a random accident. It's not that a meteor hit the Earth and spun off into the moon. Do a little research on your own and look up the theories for how the moon came into existence. None of them passed the smell test in the least. Combine this with the fact that no crater on the moon appears to be deeper than a mile or two. They all appear to be the same, no matter what the size. It's almost as if it's a giant satellite of sorts. But to me, it's very clear that it is not what we're told it is. So it's hard for me to say man created the moon. That sounds nuts. But the moon is very mysterious, and I have no doubt that there's something very secret, mystical about it. Come hard or don't come at all with some fake news BS. Maybe this is referring to, me doubting what's fake news and what is organic in numerology. Understand, I've been paying attention for well over 2 years now to the organic matrix, so to speak, or coming up on 2 years, definitely over 2 years. Like November of 2016 is where I really started to realize something was happening. And the more you look at numbers and understand how they operate, and the more you pay attention to things that happen around you, you realize that this is happening to you too. Like, it's definitely happening to me, and I've had many, many people who understand this study come to me and tell me their own organic numerology. I guess my theory is that other people know about this and then they're doing their own coding through computer software, but I don't know that. I'm just saying. You guys can make the decisions for yourself. I'm just a guy behind my computer showing you the numbers, Zenith, I'm not sure which method you're talking about as being legit. Based on where you said this, maybe it's Satanic Gematria. I don't think I cracked open too many other ciphers. Satanic Gematria is definitely super relevant, though. Yeah, I hope the work does matter because, again, I can't decode everything. I'm not going to be doing this forever. I need other people to understand it as well as I do so that they can expose what's happening and maybe even advance what I'm looking at. It's wild stuff what we're discovering. Jason, finally free, mentions the moon is not real, and the Saturn matrix projects it out. Well, I guess that's one of my potential theories. I mean, the mathematics is too difficult to ignore how amazing this is. We consider that the ancient cultures, in Hebrew, they worshipped their god El. And El was officially the planet Saturn. When you flip the word El, E-L, upside down, you get the number 73. In the English Kabbalah, Saturn equals 73. This is the Crowley cipher that uses every 11th letter. 73 is the 21st prime number, and Saturn also sums to 21. So when you think about ancient mystical knowledge and what are these secret societies at the top hiding from us, right? I don't want to say it's my belief, but it is a strongly held theory that they understand what our reality is based in, where it comes from, how it's projected, because these things that happen in our lives by the numbers, the organic matrix, so to speak, these would not be possible in a randomized world. It's possible because events that affect our lives are coded by the numbers. And I truly believe that the elite understand and know this. They may not understand the system entirely, but they realize that things happen for a reason, and we are in certain situations in our lives for particular reasons. We are meant to learn certain lessons, meet certain people. And the fact that this happens by a numeric code seems to tell us that, there's a God that's pulling the strings actively. And when you wonder why certain religions take their faith so seriously, such as the Jewish culture, well, that's probably why, because they have this understanding of what's really happening in this world. And what's happening is that they're part of a greater system that's operating by these numbers, My chat jumped down on me here just a second. Trying to scan through the chat a little bit quickly. Interesting note from Bobby that Donald Trump turns 911 lunar months old on February 8th, 2020. Remember, February 8th equals 9/11. It's pretty wild. So yeah, it's funny. Coincidentally, Rebecca just mentioned Lupercalia 213. I'm actually looking at Lupercalia this year for a significant death. Granted, it doesn't seem to go much out on a limb to predict a death on Lupercalia. Lupercalia, of course, the 44th day of the year. The word kill in the alphabetic order equals 44. Lupercalia in reduction equals 44. And that date is February 13th. In our Satanic Gematria cipher, death equals 213, like the date February 13th. When we look at the date February 13th this year, again, the 44th day of the year, I wouldn't actually say the numerology is overwhelmingly strong. However, we do have a standard numerology of 34. So kill equals 44. It's the 44th day of the year. Murder equals 34 in reduction. But where I find interesting numbers is when we measure to the eclipses. And absolutely, measuring to these eclipses is one of the most important things you can do. 541 days. This is the 100th prime number. In Hebrew Gematria, Israel equals 541. This is also a star number, and the Star of David on the flag of Israel, so this number makes a lot of sense. If we include the end date, we get a couple of interesting numbers. We get 77 weeks and 3 days. Total eclipse equals 137, and the 137th prime is 773. So a 773 in that measurement. Also 177 days after the anniversary of the eclipse. Also in ordinal, eclipse of the sun, 177. Total eclipses happen a maximum of, or not total eclipses, but eclipses tend to happen a maximum of 177 days apart from one another. If you measure to the next total solar eclipse, you get 139 days. Remember, it's Freemasonry that was founded by the numbers of the eclipse. By the way, 139 is the 34th prime number, and the date, February 13th, has that 34 numerology. If we measure to the Great American Total Solar Eclipse in 2024, which remains to be a significant date, 5 years, 55 days. I don't know if that's a very interesting number for this. With the S exception, sacrifice equals 55. I don't know how strong this really is. Maybe the 1881 is more significant. So I don't know. We'll probably see a death in the news, but I don't think it's going to be a really big one, actually, now that I'm looking at this. Last year, I was able to call a lot of big dates for deaths for celebrities, actors, and athletes. Granted, I'm not able to predict who's going to die, but we know when these dates are going to occur, and it's always because of the eclipses. Perhaps the biggest one we got last year was the death of rapper XXXTentacion. He died 43 weeks after the Great American Eclipse. Jesus Christ equals 43. Measuring to the Great American Total Solar Eclipse in 2024, he died exactly 303 weeks before it, and crucifixion of Jesus Christ equals 303. XXXTentacion had a birthday of January 23rd, 123. He died 146 days after his birthday, Jesus Christ, 146. In ordinal, Jesus Christ equals 151, and this was rapper XXXTentacion, which equals 151 in reverse. So I called this date for a major sacrifice, and I was right. I also called the date April 20th of 2018. This stood out because it was the date 420, like 42. It was also 242 days after the Great American Eclipse. It was also 2,180 days before the next Great American Eclipse. And 218 is the Gematria of death. The word moon in Hebrew Gematria sums to 218. So that's why I called that date. And then we got the death of Avicii, a megastar DJ, dying on that date. I also said we'd get a death of a big celebrity on January 15th. That was 147 days after the eclipse. But more important was the date numerology, 46. I'm sorry, down here, 34. Just like murder. And Dolores O'Riordan died on this date. She died 325 weeks before the eclipse. Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, 325. Also 350 in reverse. The date she died leaves 350 days in the year. Another one I hit was, I didn't hit the date of the death, but I did hit the date of the funeral. I said March 8th we were going to get one. Because it was exactly 73 months before the Great American Eclipse in 2024. It was 199 days after the last eclipse. That's the 46th prime number. Sacrifice 46. Anyway, on March 8th, we had the funeral of a star soccer player, Astori, headlining the news that date. So there's definitely something going on. You know, that was also the 67th day of the year. Blood sacrifice, 67. Total solar eclipse, 67. So that's what's going on. I mean, all these people are always dying in significant durations to the eclipses. So, yeah. Remember the rappers Tupac and Biggie? Look at how Biggie equals 39, ordinal and reduction. The word eclipse equals 39, reverse reduction. Notorious B.I.G., death date, March 9th or 3/9/97. And would you believe there was a total solar eclipse on March 9th, 1997, the same day Biggie died on 3/9. Remember, there's only 7 total solar eclipses per decade on average, so less than 1 per year. Notorious BIG equals 74 in reduction. Biggie Smalls equals 74 in reverse. This is because it was Jesus who was crucified under an eclipse in the New Testament. Jesus equals 74. Tupac equals 74 in reverse. His other name was Machiavelli, which equals 74. Tupac Shakur equals 13-9. 139 alphabetic order. He died on 13/9. 139. Interesting, because it has that 39, just like how Biggie has 39, and he died on 39. We also had Chris Cornell dying 3 months, 3 days before the 2017 eclipse. His friend Chester Bennington sang at his funeral. Chester equals 33, and then he died 33 days before the eclipse. Jesus crucified at the age of 33. All right, guys. I'm going to hop out of here. I'm getting a little thirsty. Been talking a lot tonight. Reagan said someone type a comment. He can't see anything. Well, Reagan, if you were in the stream yesterday, you may have noticed that YouTube was only telling me I had 3 or 4 viewers watching now, even though there were at least 10 people active in the chat. I have strong reason to believe my view statistics have been suppressed for quite some time on YouTube. They have admitted now that they've tweaked the search algorithm so that conspiracy-related content doesn't show up. They've been doing this for a while, though. And this is all part of it. Now, as I'm looking at changes to 33, thank you. But yeah, I mean, just a couple weeks ago, I had 50, 60, 70 people. I think I had 80 one day watching live. Maybe it's because tonight is Friday, there's less, but I doubt that everybody's getting the alerts. There's just no way. So that's why I now encourage everybody to like, share, and subscribe. You know, I don't like shoving those phrases down your throats, but when the content is being suppressed, we need to understand that there's an information war. And book burning doesn't just look like a big bonfire. It looks like content removed tags on YouTube as well. Remember that. All right, everybody. Thanks again for watching. Hope everyone has a fantastic weekend. Peace, love, God bless. See ya!